Hi everyone, greetings from Mentormatics. My name is Rini Thomas and I am really pleased to be your instructor for this course. Let me first give a brief introduction about myself. As a student, you might want to know who I am and whether I am qualified enough to teach you this course. Regarding my educational background, I have a Bachelor of Engineering degree in Computer Science. And regarding my professional experience, I have around 17 plus years of professional experience working in many multinational companies in India and abroad. I have worked on many real world applications and projects and worked mainly on technologies like C Sharp, Microsoft ASP.NET, and Node.js as backend, and HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Angular, and React as frontend. Also, I have worked as a corporate trainer, training many freshers after they have been hired and making them job ready. Okay, that's all about me. Let me see you all in the coming lectures. Thank you. Hello and welcome to my full stack web development course. Today I am so excited and privileged to be your instructor for this course. This course is a step-by-step tutorial with interactive coding exercises, quizzes, and much more. You can look forward to a very professional level content covering every topic a full stack web developer should know. And the best part is the course is completely project based. So that means you're going to learn everything you need to know while building a beautiful real world website and web application. You will build a beautiful product website using HTML, CSS, and Bootstrap. You will learn about Node, React, and the Merge stack to build classic real world apps that's perfect for showing off at your next interview. The topics we will be covering in the course include: first one is HTML5. In HTML5, we will be learning the anatomy of HTML syntax, then HTML boilerplates and HTML doc types, how to structure text in HTML, how to structure HTML list to create unordered and ordered list, how to insert images using HTML, how to create hyperlinks using anchor tags, understand how to use HTML tables, learn HTML best practices, understand about HTML forms and create a simple contact me form, HTML divs and how to separate content for CSS styling. Then we will learn CSS3. In CSS3, we include the topics, understand what are the cascading styling sheets, how you can use it to style your website using CSS3 selectors, how to use inline, internal, and external CSS, CSS sizing methods, CSS syntax and structure, CSS specificity and implementing style hierarchy, classes versus IDs, CSS display, how to use CSS static, relative, and absolute positioning, font styling using CSS and web safe fonts, centering elements using CSS, then CSS plots, CSS selectors, and understand selector priority. Then we will be learning about Bootstrap 4. In Bootstrap, we will cover the following topics: learn the fundamentals of implementing responsive web design, how to use Balsamic to mockup and wireframe websites, then install the Bootstrap framework, understand the Bootstrap grid layout system, how to use Bootstrap containers to lay out your website, use Bootstrap components such as buttons, adding symbols using Fondosum. Then we learn about Bootstrap carousels, Bootstrap cards, Bootstrap navigation bars, etc. Then we'll go to learn JavaScript and mainly JavaScript and ESX. In the JavaScript course, we will learn about the fundamentals of code, starting code with alert and prompt, variables and data types in JavaScript, naming conventions in JavaScript, strings and numbers, logical operators, loops, collections and conditionals, functions and invocation patterns, then use of JS expressions, operators, statements and declarations, OOPS concepts, objects and prototype, Then this scope and closures, refactoring and debugging. Then we'll come to Node.js, that is the backend development. In Node.js, we'll learn about the components of backend development, working with an MVC framework, apply concepts like data types, objects, methods, object-oriented programming, server-side JavaScript, using Node on the command line, npm, JavaScript build processes, event loop and emitters, file system interaction, modules, native Node drivers. Then we'll be creating web server using express.js. In express.js, we cover how to install and use Express in Node applications, creating Node and Express-based servers, RESTful routing with Express, and understand and use middleware for Node applications. Then we will be covering application program interfaces, that is APIs. To learn what is API, understand what API are and how they work, HTTP in-depth, calling APIs, reading API documentation, basic API authentication, server-to-server communication, JSON versus XML, sending data over the wire. Then EJS template we will be learning. Understand what EJS does and how to use it with Node and Express. Templating with EJS, running code in EJS templates, passing data from server to template and vice versa, creating layouts partials with EJS. Then we'll proceed to learning database fundamentals. We will learn data relationships, designing a data model, relational databases, alternative databases, entity relationship modeling, and object relational mapping. We will learn NoSQL databases with MongoDB and Mongoose. We will learn what is serialization, how to model NoSQL data, document databases, example MongoDB, then create, read, update, destroy, CRUD operations, NoSQL best practices, Mongo shell and command line use, installing MongoDB, mapping relationships with MongoDB, using an object data modeling library to work easily with your data. Then we will learn deployment, how to deploy our website into a web server. Understanding hosting and deployment, hosting static websites with GitHub pages, deploying server-based applications with Heroku, deploying database with Mongo Atlas. Then we will build a RESTful API. Under the RESTful APIs, we cover understand the REST and guiding principles behind API design, learn to work with a MongoDB GUI Robo 3T, implementing get, post, put, patch, and delete by creating a public API from scratch, understand and use chained route handlers from Express. And under authentication and security, we will learn the need for authentication and keep user details secure. We will learn about encryption and use encryption to keep your database secure. We will learn and implement hashing and salting with bcrypt, using sessions and cookies to persist user login sessions, setting up local authentication from scratch, implementing passport to authenticate users quickly and effectively, understand and use environment variables to keep secret keys secure, understand and use OAuth2 to log in users using Google and Facebook. Then we will move on to React.js, which is a front-end framework we are using. We will learn front-end development with React, understand when and how to use React components, learn to pass props and work with them, learn to write JSS and understand JSS syntax, then learn about the React DOM, learn state management in React, learn about React hooks, learn about conditional rendering in React, understand the difference between class and functional components. Then we will learn the more advanced JavaScript ES6 features like arrow functions, map, filter, reduce, find one, find index, import, export, and modules, object and array destructuring, and spread operators. In today's lecture, we are going to learn how to create a real web server locally on our computer. using Node.js and Express. Now, first I have got my terminal open in my Visual Studio Code. I have created a new directory called my Express server, and we have changed to that new directory. Now, inside this project folder, I'll create a new file called server.js. Now we have to initialize this our project using the npm init command. So we'll go to the terminal, and here I'll write npm init. Now, while we are initializing a project, it will ask a few questions. So now we can start to the process of setting up this npm. So the package name, I can give it as my Express server. This is okay. Now version is 1. Description, you can give any description like my web server. Then entry point is server.js. Test command you can ignore. Git repository you can ignore. Keywords ignore. Author you can give your name. License ignore. If this is okay, yes. So now we have initialized our project. So now see here, you have created a file is created here called package.json. And inside this file, we get all the details, whatever we have given during the initialization, like the name, version, description, and the author, license, etc. So this is basically the process that you will go through every single time you develop a new web development project. It's good you run through it a few times so that you are used to all the things you have to do. Now, next thing is we have to install Express. So we give the command npm install Express. So once it's installed, it will add the Node modules folder that Express requires, as well as the Express itself. See, inside this folder, you get so many modules, and including this Express. So in the package.json, see here, inside the dependencies key, you get Express, and this is the latest version of Express. Now that we have installed Express, the next step is to require it. So in the server.js file, you write constant, you give a variable express equal to require of, in quotes, you write express. And this is simply, we are just including this express module in our project. Now that we have required and incorporated express into this file, next step is to create a new constant called app. So I'll write constant app equal to express. So basically, this is simply a function that represents the express module, and we bind that to the constant app. You will notice that when you come across websites that use express, the word app is always used when you are referring to the express module, although you don't have to. You can call it anything you like, but this is just a best practice, and it makes it easier for other people to understand what is going on in your code. So now that we created our constant app, next step is to use this app, and we are going to use one of its method called listen. And this tells it to listen on a specific port for any HTTP request that gets sent to our server. So I'm going to choose the port 5500, and I'll write app.listen, and here I'll write the port number 5500. Now if we hit save now, we have literally built our very first web server. This is the bare bone of an Express server. Now let's go to the terminal and run the server by saying node server.js. So I'll write node server.js. Now you can see that nothing much is happening other than the fact that it seems like the terminal is hanging. We don't get a normal prompt, right? Because normally when we execute a command, we get the prompt. The reason is because it's listening on this port what we specified, port 5500. Now, a port is basically a channel that we turned our server to. Like, for example, we sometimes listen to a particular FM radio channel. And similarly, our server is just tuned into the channel 5500. Now, not much is happening here. Now, let's stop our server. And we do that by giving the command Control C. So now we have stopped our server and back on the prompt. Now we are no longer running a server anymore. So if you want to be able to see when our port is set up and when our server is running, we can add a callback function to this method listen here. So we can add an anonymous function here and we are going to call back using a console.log. So I'll write a callback function here and inside that function I'll write a console.log listening on port 5500. Okay. So now we hit save, and if you run this code again, node server.js, we get a message listening on port 5500. It is telling that our server is started on port 5500. Now we head over to that port location, which is localhost 5500. Because we are hosting our server locally, after the calling, we specify the port that our server is set up, which is 5500. And you can see we get this error, cannot get. Now, what does that mean? It means that our browser is trying to get in touch with the server on port 5500 and it is not able to get anything back now. Now we have to figure out how can we write some code that a server responds to when a browser is making a request to a server. We have to send the browser some information to display. So in the next lesson, that is what we are going to learn. We will be learning about the request and the response that we can provide when a browser makes a GET request. And this is all for today's lecture, and thank you for watching.